So
Too many accounts on one computer, obviously. And we have been having problems with Zoom, so I apologize. It's not necessarily people's connections, but sometimes Zoom has been going out. So if you too many accounts on one computer, obviously. So please have just a slight amount of extra patience with us this evening. But looks like we're live and you're
looks
ready.
like you're live.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we will open up the virtual only Planning Commission meeting Wednesday, August 26, 2020. Can I get roll call, please?
Commissioner Wynn? Commissioner Silva?
Here.
Commissioner Evans?
Here.
Commissioner Dodson?
Present.
Vice Chair Spalletta?
Present.
Chair Owens?
Present.
For the record, we have a quorum.
Very good. Review of agenda items. If there's any items that arose after the 72-hour posting deadline, this is the point in the meeting where a vote may be taken to add the item to the agenda. A 2 to 3 majority vote is required. Leslie, anything come up?
No, sir.
Okay, public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the Planning Commission on matters within the jurisdiction of the city of Seaside, but not on this agenda, may do so during the public comment period for up to 2 minutes. Public comments are on specific items heard under that item. For the public, please state your name. We have anybody wishing for public comment, Leslie?
If anyone participating on the webinar wants to make a comment, please raise your hand now and I'll unmute you. Okay, Chris and Andrea, you can unmute yourself and speak for up to 2 minutes.
We're new to this, so we just have, we live across the street from the project.
Ma'am, let me stop you right there.
Okay.
Items under, public comment under the item is heard under that item only.
Okay,
This is a public comment, and it's okay. Like you said, you're new to this, but
yeah,
this is for anything else that's within the city.
got it. Thank you. I apologize.
No worries. Okay, Leslie, I think they're gonna be heard under the item for the construction.
Okay, I don't see any other public comments, Chair.
Okay, I have an alarm clock. Oh, there it went away. Very good. Okay, approval of minutes, July 22nd, 2020. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes for that meeting?
Did we receive copies of the minutes?
So all 3 sets of minutes that are on the agenda were added this afternoon. So if you want to take a minute to review those. I apologize that they were so late.
Do we want to waste time or should we just move this to the next meeting?
You could also continue it to the end of the meeting if you want.
Let's go ahead and continue that to the end of the meeting so we'll get a chance to look at it between. So business items. Use permit application UP 20-06 Board of Architectural Review application. Are we doing BAR or planning right now?
Both.
Leslie? Both at the same time?
Yeah, so the Planning Commission is operating as the Board of Architectural Review as well. So some things you're going to see are going to be Planning Commission items, some will be BAR, but we're going to try to identify what is what so you can kind of get your architecture hats on versus your zoning and planning hats on. So that's how we're trying to.
Okay, permit application UP 20-06 Board of Architecture Review for application number BAR 20-03 and Kit Afrikawala. Applicant and property owners requesting a use permit for exterior stairway that would provide access to an existing and expanded second floor. Beth?
Yeah, Beth Rocha, Associate Planner, presenting this project tonight. You will be considering both a use permit and architectural review application. A little bit of background on the site: and the current owner purchased the home in November of 2019 and immediately started correcting things that had not been done with permits and obtained a demo permit January 1st, 2020. The existing home is 2,217 square feet. It is 2 stories. It has 1,408 square feet on the first floor, 457 on the existing second floor, and a 352 square foot garage. The applications that you're looking at tonight, first, the use permit. It's an exterior stairway that's leading to the second floor. And the bar application is for a second story addition and a deck. This image shows the extent of the demolition of second story elements. The main living area that you see was permitted, I believe, back in 1982. And it is where the kitchen is currently located, and the stairs go down. This is above the garage. Everything else that you see, the mud room, the sunroom, and the decks and trellises are all being demoed. This is an older picture taken from Google Maps that shows those enclosed areas and the unpermitted areas in the front of the home, shown as the sunroom, and then on the left as the mudroom and the trellis structure. There's a site plan. It's a fairly large site with the home located primarily in the front half of the site. Just to give an idea of the scale, from the rear property line to the rear wall of the home, there's 64 feet. And then on the sides, we're looking at 9 feet 4 inches to the existing wall. And then on the left or south elevation, 18 feet 2 inches to the exterior wall, and then about 14 feet to the proposed stairway leading to the second floor. I've included these topo maps to give you an idea of the grade change. The subject property is highlighted with the yellow box, and what you see in the map below is right of way. So that's corresponding with what's above, that's Highland. And then the numbers marked below are the topo numbers that we took for the approximate at grade levels of which the homes were built. So when we look at the highlighted property with 183 topo line and 185 at the front, that property where it sits is about 10 feet above the property on Highland to its rear. And then across the street, it's 9 to 12 feet below the property at 1950 Mendocino across the road. So this just shows this area has quite the difference in topography from home to home and from block to block. So the first permit for your consideration is the use permit. The code requires that exterior stairways that would lead to a second floor obtain a use permit. So this is the south elevation. This is looking at the stair as it would be accessed from the front of the home, which is to the right on this image, and leading up to the second story and the newly expanded deck areas. This is showing the proposed stairway from the front of the home, which shows the extent of the home only to the portion where the second story addition is happening. The image didn't allow for full inclusion due to the size limitations of the presentation. But in this image, you can see about half or more of the stairway is being obscured by a proposed new 6-foot tall fence in line with the garage door of the home. Here's some images. The image on the far left shows the wall of the subject property against which the stairway will be located. The image on the top right shows the adjacent neighbor's garage, boat parked in a driveway that extends back into the rear yard. And then the picture below that shows that same boat parked and then a window, garage window that is directly across from where the stairway would be located. So these findings are outlined in the code, or sorry, in the staff report, and the evidence for them is provided. I'll review a condensed version of that. The proposed use is allowed in the zone and complies with all provisions of the zoning ordinance and the municipal code. The stairway maintains a minimum 15-foot setback from the rear property line, and it's approximately 14 feet from the side property line. The use is consistent with the general plan. The land use classification is intended for existing or planned single-family residential units, and that includes exterior stairways. The design, location, and size of the proposed stairway is compatible with existing and planned land uses in the vicinity, and that the exterior stairway is an accessory use to the main dwelling and therefore does not alter the operating characteristics of the dwelling or enjoyment of other properties in the neighborhood. The site is physically suitable for what's being proposed, and that the completion or construction of the exterior stairway will not alter the location of existing utilities or access to the roof deck from the ground level, and access is provided by, to the second story is provided by the staircase located at the south end of the residence, setback approximately 14 feet from the side property line. And then finally, granting the permit would not be detrimental to the public interest, health, safety, convenience, or welfare, etc. From the subject property. It's located again in the residential zone and would not create significant noise or privacy impacts that may be objectionable or detrimental to other permitted uses in the vicinity or adverse to the public interest, health, safety, convenience, or welfare of the city. Given those findings, and again, the distances served on site by that structure, staff recommends approval of the exterior stairway that provides access to the proposed second story deck and expanded residential area, subject to the resolution, the project plans, and then the material specifications.
Any questions for staff, commissioners?
I have just a quick question. The stairway heading towards the front, has the applicant expressed sort of the intention of the stairway? Is it meant for a just an emergency exit, or has the applicant considered or included in the application anything related to like a junior accessory dwelling unit?
I spoke to the applicant about the potential of an ADU, but at this point, it's not something that he's interested in doing. The second level is proposed to be expanded to accommodate a master bedroom to take advantage of the views available as it exists now, and then as it will be expanded with an additional closet and a restroom. Right now, it's the location of the kitchen of the home, and the floor plan's being changed around, and you'll see that in the architectural review application.
Are you done, Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. How many people can be on this deck?
That's something that would be evaluated during the building code review. There's going to be occupancy limits based on the area of the deck.
I'm just curious why it can't be accessed from the house.
It's my understanding that the deck can be accessed from the house. I'm not sure of what the building code would require for exiting, or if this is just a design element chosen by the applicant and architect. Given that we're looking at both the use permit and the bar application, maybe we can get guidance from Sherry regarding whether or not we want the applicant and architect to speak to some of these questions being raised now, and we can kind of split out these two presentations.
I tell you what, I'll hold mine until after the applicant speaks then.
Okay.
Any other commissioners wish to speak to staff on this? No? Okay, seeing that, we will open it up to the applicant.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, let me mute it. We got,
Something's really
Okay.
triggering something here.
I'm here with my designer, so we were both on the computer and that's why there was some echo. So yes, even though in the permit we have not, in the request, we have not mentioned that, okay, this will be used or this can be used as emergency exit. That is one of the intents that, yes, otherwise the only access to the upper floor is through inside the house. And in case of emergency, exiting from this staircase would be much faster than going into the house and then going through the house to the extra outside of the door. And as of now, as Mr. Rocha mentioned, that this is the only room which has kitchen, and I'm moving the kitchen downstairs. So in the later age, and adding the bathroom and the closet, later age, it doesn't become that you are going up and down the stairs to access just the bathroom. And that is the whole idea of expanding the upper floor. I don't think I have anything else to say as far as the staircase goes.
Okay,
The reasons that we also implemented the staircase was there'd be easier access to the backyard. So if you're sitting on your deck enjoying yourself, you don't have to run down through the house, through the garage, or through the family room to that deck down to the ground, that you have an easier access to go from upstairs to the backyard with little ease. Because right now, the way it's laid out, it's you'd have to go through the front door or through, I don't think we have any stairs on the back deck, do we? I can't remember, no. So there's no access off the lower floor deck. So the only way to exit to the backyard would be either through the garage or the front door.
commissioners, anything for the applicant?
Oh,
I think we can't hear you. Hold on one second. Okay, we can.
Is
hear
that
you.
all you have from, is that all from the applicant?
Yes. For
Okay.
this use permit.
Commissioners, anything you wish to speak on to the applicant? No? Okay, thank you, applicant. We will open it up to public comment at this time. Anybody wishing to speak on this matter can do so now. For 2 minutes.
Okay, Chris and Andrea, you can mute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Our concern is the addition to the right of the, or facing the ocean to the right of the existing second story. It does affect our view, which will then affect our value of our property. And that's pretty much our main concern.
Very good. Anybody else on public comment? Leslie, anybody else for public comment?
No, sir, that's the last request.
Okay. Seeing
Can I
nobody else.
Chair, can I ask a question to clarify the comments we just heard?
Absolutely.
Yes, I was wondering where the commenters live in relationship to this home.
We live directly across the street at 1950 Mendocino, and we are the property owners.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else from, seeing no other public comments, we will close public comment and bring it back to commissioners. Mr. Evans, you can go ahead and start.
Chair, I'm going to pass for now. I'm just looking at
Okay.
some other things.
Okie dokie then. Mr. Evans? I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Silva. Bad on my,
It's okay. Dave and I, we kind of blend together. So, the first observation I have is the pictures of the previous condition of this property. It was in terrible disrepair, and there were so many things that were unpermitted. And I have to just say, just looking at the plans, it appears as though the new owner is really making a conscientious effort to make some really nice improvements to this property and to beautify the neighborhood and to add value. The other thing, and my first concern, because we've gone through this before, is when a second story is added. We've had these discussions. The law does not protect the views of other homeowners, but the city's general plan asks us to look at view sharing, at kind of finding a balance between the rights of a homeowner to go up and to increase their views, while at the same time respecting the fact that other people have views. And there were a couple things I remember from our prior conversations about that. One is that you don't allow, we shouldn't allow a two-story element that fills the entire width of the house, but rather we set it to one side or it's in the middle and so forth. And since there was already an existing two-story element on this house, that's historic, it's there. And what they're adding, it increases that massing a little bit, but not even a third of the width of the entire home. And since it is on one end of the house, that can be a concern where it looks over the neighbor to the side. But in this instance, they've got a 15 or more foot setback. So once again, the things that we've expressed concern about in the past are mitigated here. And I also, in looking at the plans, because that lot drops off so much in the back, I now see why the staircase falls to the front, because it would be difficult to pick up the grade to the rear. So looking at all those things, seeing that this homeowner is conscientiously making an investment to improve this property, it's going to beautify it and rectify all of the, the bootleg permit things, and the addition of the second floor. Well, the second floor was already there, but that portion which is being added is still a small fraction of the overall mass, in which case, yes, we have a homeowner across the street whose view is going to be impacted a little bit, but not entirely. There still is a significant single story element where they can still share those views. And so I think that this represents a good design and a very nice compromise with regards to the issues that have always concerned us and been our priority. So I'm in favor of the application.
Mr. Dodson?
Commissioner Silva, I think, pretty much summed up my feelings about this. We have had cases where views have been a major issue, and a large percentage of the views have been subject to being gone after the redevelopment of the property. That doesn't seem to be the case here. It's not going above the existing heights anywhere. So yeah, I totally agree with what Commissioner Silva said.
Mr. Evans?
Yeah, Commissioner Silva was looking at exactly what I was trying to look at on the computer as I was taking a look from across the street and looking down, trying to understand the drop off. So I'm quite impressed with the design. I'm quite impressed with the materials being called for. Obviously, it's going to remarkably improve this particular home and the lot itself. I feel bad for losing any view for anybody, but based on what I'm seeing coming across, it's a pretty minimal decrease. So I'm in concurrence with Commissioner Dotson and Commissioner Silva, this looks like a very good program, proposal.
Mr.
If I
Spiletta?
may, real quick, just a reminder, we're looking at the use permit portion right now, which is just for that stairway. I'm still have yet to cover the rest of the project.
And that's what we're looking at right now is the extension off the side for the stairway is what we're talking about for the view in the front. They're just expressing their likes for the actual design.
I understand.
Okay, Mr. Spiletta.
I agree with all my fellow commissioners. Yeah, also due to the fact that the owner is invested in righting the unpermitted issues, and I think it's going to definitely add value to the overall properties in the surrounding area there. But I agree.
Just so that all the commissioners are aware, homeowners have to bring it up when they buy a house that is not permitted. So it's not like this is being done out of good of grace. It has to be done, as far as I know. Anyway, anything else, Commissioner? No? Okay. I can't see why we need a stairway on the side of this house. You have access through the house, which most houses do, especially for a second story. The main reason that I don't like an exterior staircase is the amount of people that can be up on there. And when we raise it, well, I can't get to that part, but see, this is very tough, Beth, because we're the Planning Commission and we're also the BAR now. And the two of them kind of go together, because for me to say okay for a stairway, I have to take in the people that they're now towering over the top of by putting a 20-foot by 9-foot deck on the back of that thing. How many people can be up there? The noise factor alone by raising it up in the air to the other, and that house sits in a weird, the other houses don't line up straight with it down below or on the other street. They're all offset a little bit. And so when you go down and look, they're right over the top of the two houses that are down below. And you think that there's a large setback there, but when you're right there looking at the 2-story, you can see them right over the top of those 2 yards. So it's very tough for me to say okay on a stairwell when I'm not okay with the deck there. I'm okay with a balcony because you can't put that many people out there. But when you put a deck that size out there overlooking something, we have to look at both of those issues as far as I'm concerned with the staircase. If they come through the house with the staircase, at least it's going to minimize how many people go out to that deck, because you've got the same view down below on his first deck. We walked the property extensively on the street below, and the ocean views and everything from the first floor deck are absolutely phenomenal. And now we're going up another how many feet? That's why I have it hard with this BAR and the Planning Commission at the same time.
Chair, may I offer another comment?
Absolutely.
I know that if my master bedroom was in that location, I wouldn't particularly want a staircase that could be accessed from the street to come up, and somebody could be looking in the, into my windows of my master bedroom or breaking in or anything else. But having said that, I also, I respect that if somebody has a deck off their master bedroom and it is on the second floor, that they may want a staircase for emergency egress. I don't know that it's our job to guess whether or not they're going to entertain and have too many people on the deck or not. I understand it's a large deck. Maybe they just want a table and chairs, and that's the space they need. I don't know. But I respect, obviously, your concerns. But I'd hate to have somebody perish in a house fire because they can't get out of the master bedroom because we told them they couldn't have a staircase, especially when there is more than ample setback on the side yard.
Well, I have a second-story house and I've only got one exit out of my house from my second story. So I have a hard time looking at this whole thing, especially as from the BAR standpoint. What I think we need to do is we need to probably have a drive-by with all of them, because when you say you can see the lady that just came up on their view alone, those houses are offset. Her house might be offset right where the 2-story is. And that's where her house lines up with. I think we need to look at something like this a little bit better. I mean, I love the design, don't get me wrong. The house is beautiful. My whole thing is that upper story deck being so large and then having that staircase come up to it. But
Through the chair.
I walked by and I did not see flagging for the actual stairwell going down. I saw a little bit of flagging here and there, but nothing as far as the stairs.
Chair, can I ask you a question, either of you and or of Beth? That maybe I'm confused, because when I was looking at the floor plan that was in our document, maybe I misunderstood. I thought they had an existing deck there now on that side and on the back. Am I incorrect in that?
Yes, it's nothing that size. It's a sunroom. I see it, because if you go to the drawing,
They actually had a deck that was much larger, extended out on the side, but it's been demoed. The deck to the back was about the same size, but the staircase went down towards the other deck along the back of the house.
so the deck that is sticking, that's showing in the pink, isn't the deck that's being removed then, is what you're saying?
The deck that's in the pink on the front, it actually says sunroom, and that is being changed to a balcony. If you look at the top of the picture that's on our screen, that is the old deck, and that old deck wrapped around the side of the house, extending far further out, because there was the mudroom and that other room.
What drawing are you looking at?
The one that Beth is sharing on our screen.
Okay, so that's A4.
Yes.
So you're saying that, okay, I see what you're saying now. See, I thought the original deck was the other.
No, this is obviously was not permitted, but what?
Well, no, it wasn't, and that's why, you know, the whole house was, if you went by the house, it was all done in plywood and stuff like that. It was definitely an eyesore. There's no doubt about it. But I would really like to see where the stairwell lines up with the lady's house that's complaining about it, to make sure that maybe when they put the second story, they took 3/4 of her view away. And now the stairs are now taking the last bit of view. That's the way I heard it from her. So I don't know, personally, I think,
I understood that the bathroom addition is what's going to take her view away, because the bathroom addition goes towards the chimney at the center of the house.
okay. I just think we should do it. Having us do a site visit, I think, is very applicable. I couldn't go with anything until I actually saw it from the other lady's house that complained about it. But I just want to make sure it's not the last view she has.
If I may speak to the chair's comment, I totally agree. We've done these site reviews in the past when we've had these issues concerning site views. And this is a more complicated house than most of the ones we've looked at in the past. Now, I understand also that doing site reviews is more problematic during our current situation with the coronavirus, but I'm sure there's some way we can do that so that we can see what is actually going to be the situation.
Maybe we could get the city to okay us all going there separately, so we're well away from each other, and then we stay our 6 foot apart while we take a walk there or something. But I think we truly need to look at it from across it. That's one place I didn't look. I was mainly down on Highland Street walking by, seeing what it was going to do down below there. But I would definitely like to do a site visit before we okay anything, just to make sure that this isn't affecting them completely. And unfortunately, I think that would hit both of our items tonight. See, this is new to me, this planning and bar at the same time. Not whether we can overlap them like this or not, I have no idea. But anyway,
Chair,
yeah.
regarding things and how we move forward, we're definitely going to encounter things that we've never seen before. Now, given this, and it's a second story addition, your request for doing site visits, we can definitely look into that. It might be as simple as us asking the property owner when's a time frame that they would allow for you to access their property. But it won't be jumping in the van and us calling a special meeting and doing it that way. So we'll take more initiative next time for residential additions and helping to arrange that, but that would be an individual effort in getting yourself there and back home or wherever else you need to go. So if we could get back to the item in the use permit.
But
maybe
that's the problem, Beth. We want to look at it before we okay something like that.
Right, and you know, Sherry?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, you have some flexibility here, given that the bar and the planning commission duties have been combined. So if you would like to hear the bar information before you decide about your site visit and you start dealing with some of the other stuff, that would be permissible. You have flexibility to adjust how you consider those items, since you'd like to be considering them more together, it sounds like.
Well, yeah, it's just this. First off, nobody ever asked any of us planning commissioners if we wanted to do both, but we're doing it and that's the way it is. But this is our first meeting where we're having bar and planning commission overlap each other. And I agree with you. There's such an adjustment on both sides, but
Actually,
personally,
Chair, we got a significant presentation on that. I think you just unfortunately weren't there at that meeting. We did discuss a lot of it.
Well, that's because we did not get an online, we got offline at
no accusation there. I
6:55.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree. But I'm just saying we did have some discussion about it.
Well, it kind of irritated me that we had no way of contacting anybody that night. And we were thrown into a third meeting, or a meeting right after the week we had a meeting. And yet we had no link, but we won't go there on that right now. Let's
So
see.
moving forward on this item, maybe we can get consensus. You have the option of considering a motion for the use permit now, or I can continue and do the bar presentation. Although, you know, one element in terms of the second, the staircase leading to the second floor can impact elements of the bar application. So we can do those separately and maybe try for a motion on the use permit now, or we can receive the bar presentation. You can receive the bar presentation and you can do those motions after the end of receiving both applications information.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Through the check, go ahead, Mr. Silva.
So the presentation we just received, Beth, that was for the conditional use permit for the addition, but not for the staircase, or it was for the staircase? I'm a little confused on what we were just presented and what remains to be presented. Maybe you can share that. And then if there's a possibility, perhaps we can continue the first item we heard, hear the rest, and then once we've heard everything, decide on how we want to act, whether together, independently, you know, and whatnot.
Yeah,
So
this first thing that we were talking on is the BAR.
That's not correct. The first presentation that I just did was only for the stairway leading to the second floor for the use permit, not a conditional use permit.
Okay, then whoever wrote this up, because that's not how it's written here.
I'm not understanding what you're looking at, but all that you've
I'm looking at number A, use permit application 20-06, Board of Architectural Review application.
And use permit application.
And exactly. Well,
So typically, as things were done before, pre-merge of the bar and PC, the staircase on its own would have come to you for your consideration and approval. Then the rest of the project would have proceeded to the Board of Architectural Review, seeing that you already okayed the staircase, and then they look at design elements and also consider, you know, second story elements and view issues. Before, you only looked at the staircase. Now you're looking at both. So what this does is essentially condenses the number of public hearings that the applicant needs to go to, because we're now with one review body.
Right. Maybe then next time we should have that within number A written a little differently than what it's written.
Yeah, I can email you about that later, or we can have a phone call and we can discuss specifics of that. But I'm pretty certain the way it was written is that I included both applications in one item, which is acceptable.
Okay.
Beth, can I ask you, are we obligated to look at the use permit first in all cases before we do the bar, or can, since we're doing both of them now, reverse the order?
I'll have to ask Sherry to chime in on that. Sherry? Or Leslie? Regarding one motion or two for two different permit applications, if anyone's home.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I think it's really up to the commission which order they want to take them in. I know that Beth and I had discussed at length what was going to be the issue with order and whether we keep them as separate items, whether we do them together. So unfortunately, this application just happens to be the very first one, and we're ironing out all the kinks. So
The only reason I ask on this one, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to explain why I ask, is it seems to me that approving that staircase is it's going to be affected if they even want the staircase, if we don't vote to approve the bar.
I don't think there's any legal obligation that makes you take one before the other, but the applicant may have a preference, because if you choose not to approve the staircase, they may not want to proceed. I mean, maybe not in this specific instance, they may not want to proceed with the other portion of their project because they could be symbiotic. So that really is a consideration of the applicant. So we need to keep that in mind.
So if we were to join them as one action, notwithstanding whether we do site visits and everything else, but if we were to join them as one action and we were to approve the Board of Architectural Reviews, the design for the project, but say that it was approved without a staircase, they could still have the deck, they could still have their remodel, they could still have everything, but they wouldn't get the use permit for the staircase. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so we can look at them together and we can craft this any number of ways. And so the debates are going to be, I guess, what I think the debates are going to be, one, do we like the design, the 2 stories, the finishes, all of that stuff? And then there's a separate question, and John raised, Chair Owens raised, his well-stated concerns about whether the staircase itself served the right purpose and might encourage, too many people and so forth. And then the applicant, theirs on emergency events. And we get to weigh those, but would it be wise for us to then go on and get the presentation on the Board of Architectural Review to get the rest of the issues with the house that we can consider? Because I think generally we have a favorable attitude towards the design elements, notwithstanding whether we want to do a site visit.
Can I chime on really quick on that? The reason that I wanted to do the site visit before we approved anything, because the way that I read this, a use permit for an exterior staircase that would provide access to an existing expanded second floor, and architectural review approval for a second story addition. So basically, to me, this A is okaying everything right there. And that's the purpose of the site visit, to see if that new, because this thing's getting a little bigger, the second story, and what might have gave them view. I just want to make sure before that I proceed on that A, is that we haven't cut out her view 100%, because this is what can happen with these 2 stories. They build a 2-story here, right? Then another person gets it 10 years later and they add on to it. Well, at the time we okayed it because it left that person 10% of a view. My thing is, are we taking, by pushing that addition where the bathroom and stuff is going to go, is that going to take completely all of her view now? Because that would offset anything like what Commissioner Silva had explained earlier, that we try to set it to one side of the house or the other so that we don't take somebody's 100% view out.
If I can add, I have not yet presented on that aspect, but I'm pretty certain all of you have reviewed the plans that were provided to you over the weekend. So please give me direction on how you would like me to proceed. If you want me to do the bar presentation, I can do that. You can consider both applications. Use your discretion as to how you want to proceed. Know that you can approve one and not the other. That may result in more design modifications, but we'll leave that to the architect and applicant to address dependent on the feedback that they receive and regarding your motions.
Very good. Yeah, see, I don't know. I personally would like us to look at this before we just jump off. And I mean, this is going to be a hell of an addition. There's no doubt. It's a beautiful site. But if you look at the darked out view on, just a second, my screen won't hold the whole set of drawings. On A2, if you guys go to A2, you'll see that one new ridge, it breaks out from the additional house.
I would prefer to continue with my presentation. That way, what you're referring to, which maybe people don't have access to, might be one of the slides. That way there's a point of reference for what we're talking about for who may be tuned in.
Okay, so we won't make a motion then on this item until you've done your presentation then.
That's fine.
So basically, we'll give it back to you, Beth, for the presentation. And then obviously we'll have to go back. We'll have to go back through the the applicant and anybody that wishes to speak on it.
That's fine. And I was assuming that would happen with each application and consideration. So I just want to go back to the site plan to get you reoriented to the site. At the bottom of the site plan on the left, not the map injection on the right.
What about the right? Are you talking the darked out blue?
I think she has a bad connection. She'll be back
Yeah,
in just a second.
It's been bopping in and out here.
Chair, while we're waiting, could you clarify a little bit what you were talking about? Maybe looking at A2 to
I'm sorry,
explain.
yeah, when you look at it, the addition is jumping out more than what it was. I'm trying to get there right now.
You're talking about the bathroom that's like
Correct. That part's
cross-checked in blue?
that wasn't there in the original.
Correct.
It's a new addition, and if you noticed how much it jumped, I was trying to get to the floor plan, the upper floor plan, where I could see how far that actually sticks out.
It appears
Yeah,
to widen.
I think that's on A7.
It appears to widen the house of the second story element by 8 or 9 feet.
Right.
But I would also encourage you to look at the street view, because there's a huge tree that's in the front yard of that house that is basically in the same exact location as the second story addition that's being proposed. So I don't think it's going to change the view at all. In fact, it's that section that's being added is going to be obscured by the tree.
See, I don't see where you see that tree. What page were you on the tree?
I'm on Google Street View, and then Beth has it in her presentation. She had it up on the screen a moment ago.
I mean, I see the cypresses in front of their house.
No, it's a red flowering tree, and it's actually
Spoken V, I think.
It's taller than the rooftop, and the utility lines actually go through it.
Yeah, for some reason I don't have that picture.
We even know it's still there. I mean, we saw last week, it was Google View had an old picture of the house.
Uh-huh.
So
that may be the case.
50.
But it was in Beth's presentation. It was just on the screen a moment ago.
On Google View.
So I actually have a
Yeah, I'm
presentation
looking at the, I'm
here,
looking at the
that's
Google
helpful.
view right now. I see there's a tree in the front at the 49, right? 1949. You talking about that one bush, right? I can't see what the other one is.
Yeah, there's a huge bougainvillea in front of the second story portion.
Yeah, I need to take a better look at this because I can't, do you have it, Beth? Yeah, see, those are the picture. Well, she's got a couple that I had, but I don't see it in that either. I see a hedge on the neighbors on whatever street or the next door neighbor in the gray house.
See on the top picture, it's on the very edge on the right-hand side, but we don't have a full view of it. That's there's the bush where the cursor is pointing right now. Yeah, right there on the edge of the picture. But there was another picture in Beth's presentation. I'm just not sure where it is. There we go.
There it is. There it is.
Right. But
So the
is
new
that-
addition
it's-
is directly behind that.
Yeah, see, that looks like it's mainly in the second story. I can't, you probably have a better shot of it than I do because all I can see is the second story, and it looks like there's something right alongside the second story there, the red.
That's the chimney, and that's about 15, 20 feet off of the second story.
Okay, so basically this is where it's going.
Right behind that bougainvillea.
Okay. Again, I'd like to, Leslie, is the two people here the talk for public comment?
Yes, they still are.
Maybe we could talk to them and see if we could come by just to walk their property to see what this is going to do. I
Okay.
just feel better with it, knowing that we're not knocking everything out of theirs.
And we also still have the applicant on the phone if you would like to ask them questions. So Beth is having some issues with reconnection. Okay, she is now in the attendee. Okay, Beth, you can now unmute yourself and answer questions. She's just on our phone calling in.
I would just add, I respect obviously the chair's position.
All right, I'm unmuted now. I apologize. And I won't be able to see, Leslie, the presentation as you pull it up for the commission to see, but I will have mine up. So we'll have to go by pages.
Okay, you got it.
So if you can pull up page 5, we'll go back to the site plan and then we'll go on from there.
You got it. We're here.
Thank you. So I was pointing out, just kind of reorienting you to the site. The bottom of the site plan is the front of the home. You have the driveway entrance on the left, which leads to a one-car garage, and that is the area where the existing second floor is occupies the space above the garage. And just calling out the front door of the home is that pathway that you see kind of rendered in cobblestone to the right of the driveway. What we're looking at in terms of the additions, and I'll also include the stairway that we just considered for the use permit portion. You can view that on the left, just to the right of where you see the distance measured at 18 foot 2 inches to the exterior wall. And then the proposed second story addition is in the shaded area, just to the bottom left of the existing chimney. And you can also see the extent of the decks there, the existing pool structure. There's quite a hedge in the back, and we'll get to that in a second when we look at some of the site photos. The trees providing screening and privacy between the properties. So let's move on, Leslie. Let's go to the next page, which is the topography page. In terms of talking about the alignment of the homes, and specifically to speak to the person who called in at 1950 Mendocino, which is directly across the street, I think I recall from my site visits, as you see where their driveway is and the vehicle parked in it, where you see the address also of 1950 labeled right below that bright red 194 topo marker is where I believe that they had possibly like a living room window, a huge window. That is the window which I believe that they look out onto. And when we get to public comment again, they can specify otherwise. But that kind of gives you an idea of where they could be looking out from their property across the street to 1949 Mendocino, the subject property. So Leslie, let's we'll go past the use permit recommendation. We'll land on page 13, which is the kind of cover page introducing the architectural review application for the second story addition and the deck as required by code. Moving on to the next page. I zoomed in on a couple of these areas just to show you the extent. If we're looking at the table on the right, essentially we're looking at a very small 16 square foot addition to the first story. And that area highlighted in yellow, where you see the darker lines of rendering, is where the addition is taking place, and also the roof line is being modified but not raised to an extent that's taller than even the existing chimney, I believe, but we'll see more details when we get to the elevation. The upper floor living area, which you're considering, is 122 square feet, and we'll get to the dimensions on that on the next slide. The decks total 309, and then the new stairway is a total of 48 square feet. So moving on to the next slide, zoomed in even more, the extent of the 122 square foot addition we're looking at from the front. The addition being 8 foot 6 feet wide, and then it goes back towards the rear of the property 14 feet 4 inches. I also zoomed into the proposed deck on here, and it shows you the width of 19 foot 8 and by 8 foot 7 inches in depth out from the windows of the new master bedroom. Jumping to the next slide, that's the floor plan for the first floor. This shows you some of what the applicant said was their reason in wanting a stairway leading down from their expanded second floor. As you can see, there's a stairway on the right of the garage. That is how you get up to the current second floor area where the kitchen currently is. So in order to exit that proposed bedroom area, you have to go down that stair, down the hallway, past the bathroom, the den and study, and then you would exit out the front door as one potential option. Showing this just to show also the new decks that are being added on the first level, and also the reorganization of the home and the kitchen. Moving on to the next slide, we're going to be checking out the elevations. First, we see the east elevation, which is the front elevation. The existing second story height is 23 feet 8 inches, and then the proposed height of the addition is 1 foot shorter at 22 feet 8 inches. The extent of the addition can be seen in that elevation as I had labeled above the existing second story and the new. So you can see the width there, the small window that's being added, and then that existing chimney to the right. It also shows the stairway again with the proposed 6 foot fence heading the majority of that structure, as somebody would be walking up it and getting to the last, 4 to 5 risers making their way up to the second story. On the next slide, we see the south elevation, which is from the side between the subject property where they're proposing the stairway leading to the second floor. And adjacent to those photos, you already saw of the neighbor with the garage and extended driveway that essentially at the middle of the staircase, that photo was taken showing you that small window of the garage. Again, you can see the difference in the heights. And then also this shows how they're projecting a little bit further out with the proposed addition, providing more variation in the facade planes of the new addition. And you also see the roof line of the first story back towards the proposed deck area. The next slide, again, walking around the property. This is the west elevation, or the rear. Shows the extent of the decks of the proposed addition and the existing second story elements. And finally, the north elevation, another side from the side property line, and just showing again the existing and the proposed, which is the shaded gray section of that addition, and how it blends in with the remodeled home design. Let's move on to the materials. And looking at the exterior stairway, composite decking board and then stainless steel cable railing is proposed to be used on the stairway and the deck. And then moving on to the materials and colors, we're looking at hardy plank siding. They're using a stone veneer around the front of the home, the vinyl windows, laminate architectural shingles, and then paint color is going to be kind of toned down and muted, choosing from the white palette of potential colors. Moving on to the staff recommendation, we recommend approval of the second story addition deck and materials, again, subject to the resolution, project plans, and the material specifications. And that concludes my presentation for both the use permit for the stairway providing access to the second floor and the architectural review application for the second story addition and decks.
Very good. Commissioners, questions of staff?
I had a couple for Beth.
Go ahead.
Beth, I know you said it, and I should know what you were saying, but the current kitchen should be reflected. I think you said on page A4 because it's upstairs. Is that what I heard?
I don't think I referenced a sheet. There may have been a sheet referenced in the staff report, but yes, the current kitchen is located in the second story area, what currently exists.
That's the unpermitted demo?
No, the enclosed area besides the mudroom and the sunroom, the second story element that you see rendered in all these elevations is existing and permitted. Okay. The unpermitted areas were the deck surrounding it and the sunroom and mudroom.
Thank you for clarifying that. And then on, I think your slide was number 14. I was getting down to the deck area, and I didn't quite understand what you were comparing and contrasting. So I apologize making you go back.
Oh, in terms of highlighting the summaries that were provided on the cover sheet, just highlighting what we're looking at. Although the home is significant in size already, what we're looking at is pretty small additions on both the first and second floor, and then the decks and the stairways just broken down. So just providing you with numbers more than anything.
So there's no existing square footage for their decks, which I realize a lot of it's unpermitted and some of it's been demoed, but what was the prior deck, especially on that upper left side where they're going to put the stairway? Do you know?
Yeah, I'll have the architect give you an approximation on those dimensions. I don't think that area was spelled out both in the demo permit or as shown on the plans. Otherwise, it would have been captured in that demolition slide I showed earlier.
Okay, I just seemed from the slides like they were going to go, granted, it's going to be a large deck in the back, but overall, it seemed like they were going to have a smaller deck when you added all the square footage on the unpermitted side part over there. So just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say that's likely, but I would let the architect answer that for sure.
Commissioners, anything else for Beth? Beth, I have one question. When was the second story permitted? What?
Around 1982.
Okay, because since then we've had this thing about second stories having to have a two-car garage if there is room. And I noticed we have 18 foot 2. Is there a reason why now that, especially now that we're adding more square footage to the second story, does this require us for them to add the second garage? Since they have 18 foot 2 alongside the house there, another 10 feet would still leave them over 8 feet.
Yeah, that's not something that I analyzed with this project, and that's probably more likely because of the grade change. And I think you can probably see that in the south elevation depicted.
Actually, if you look at your pictures, mine's going crazy right now, sorry. Your pictures at the end of the plans. I'm trying to get to it right now. My computer's
Right.
not playing with me right now.
Excuse me for a second, but Leslie, I'm going to forward you staking and flagging photos as well in case that comes up to your work email. If that's all
Okay,
right.
yeah, I've got it. It's on your page 30 packet. It looks like it's the same terrain when we look down where the stairwell's going to be.
From the driveway to access that stair, I think there's about 3 or 4 steps down. So doing an addition to that would require essentially building up
Yeah.
from the ground level, because that grade drops down at least, I would say, 2 to 3 feet from the existing driveway.
Okay. But what does our code say about that? That's
I'll
what I'm getting at.
look at that and I'll get back to you before you make your decision, but I don't recall seeing that or us calling for that from other projects, but I'll look up the language for you right now.
Okay.
But we can continue on with conversation as I do that.
Very good. So we'll open it up then to the applicant on the, so trying to figure out where we're at here. On the architectural dwelling, the building and materials and decking.
Yes, this is Ankit Afrikala. I have sent an email to city clerk regarding this application. Maybe if somebody can read that, that would be, that's all I have to say to the city. And then I'll have my architect speak to the design.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I do have that letter if you'd like me to read it now, Chair.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. And sorry, I apologize if I mispronounce your name. My name is Ankit Afrikala. I live at 1949 Mendocino Street, Seaside, California. Although I purchased this property in Seaside in November 2019, my association in the city and the house goes as far back as the year 2004. After getting my master's degree in computer science at Texas A&M University, as a newly graduate, I found my first career job as a consultant at CTP McGraw-Hill Companies at 20 Ryan Ranch Road. During this period, I stayed as a tenant in the same house I purchased last year. The house in the city of sentimental value for me. This is where I began my professional career from an immigrant student. While purchasing this property, I knew it required a lot of work before I could settle in. Little did I know, to no one's fault, I would encounter a series of hurdles significantly delaying the project, causing serious financial and emotional distress. My first designer had to quit after a month and a half to provide care for his terminally ill wife. Subsequently, shelter-in-place order for a couple of months due to global pandemic, followed by a few changes in the city staff and reorganization. I'm certainly thankful to Ms. Rocha for providing necessary guidance and being proactive since coming on board. With her and other staff members' help from the city's office, I am finally able to present my proposed plans to the city's planning commission to seek approval. Unlike an investor looking to flip a property for a quick profit, I'm investing my time and money and energy into this severely distressed property with multiple code violations to live in it. I want to bring it back to code and make it a beautiful home for the process. In the process, fixing an addition to this property would not only improve its value, but also make the neighborhood more desirable. I am making investment not only in the property, but also in the neighborhood and the city. After obtaining demolition, already demolished several unpermitted additions, including 2 small rooms and a few decks on the upper floor. I'm continuing to demolish the rest of the unpermitted structures. To make the house layout more functional, I'm proposing moving the kitchen from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor and converting the 2nd floor to a master bedroom. This requires additional of 122 square feet to accommodate new attached full bathroom and a closet. I'm also proposing rebuilding decks with a permit, most of which have already had existed for years without any permit. I have submitted application bar 20-3 on May 19, 2020, also attached with this email for easy reference, requesting approval of the same. In addition to that, I'm also seeking use permit 20-06 for exterior stairs, providing access to the upper floor. The proposed new addition is consistent with the existing property and the properties in the neighborhood. I am humbly request the city officials to approve both of my applications. This would help immensely relieve significant financial hardships and also to move into the next phase of the project. Please do not hesitate to contact me if I could furnish any further information. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Leslie. Any questions, commissioners? No? Seeing nothing left from the applicant, we'll open it back up to public comment on this matter now.
Do we still have time for the architect to speak?
Oh, I thought they did.
No, that was the owner. I'm John Frail. I let the owner's letter speak for the project. I think it was well said.
Is that all from the architect?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we'll open it up to public comment.
Okay, Andrea, you can unmute yourself and speak on the item.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate, and I thank all of you. I do appreciate the fact that our new neighbor is making improvements, but I would definitely like consideration as to our view and our investment, as we are lifelong residents of Seaside, California, and we've owned this property since 2004. And you're welcome to come anytime.
Thank you, miss.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing as public comment is there anybody else for public comment, Leslie?
No, sir, that's it.
I believe there is one more email from one of the neighbors. If that could go on the record as well.
I must have missed that. Hold on one second. I'll see if I can find it.
Guys, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back.
I'm going to step out for about a minute too.
Well, Vice Chair, now's your chance.
Okay, I did find the second public comment. Do you want me to wait until they return?
Yes.
Okay.
Way to go, Vice Chair.
Okay. Did you say yes, proceed? I'm sorry, or did you say no? No. Okay, I'll wait. Just let me know.
Why?
The chair stepped away. I think it'd be good for us all to hear the letter.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Whew. Leslie back? No?
Yes, so I have the second public comment.
Okay.
My name is Lorraine Cornelius, and I've lived at 1940 Mendocino Street since 1981. Mr. Afukala lives right across the street from my next door neighbor at 1950 Mendocino. I met him in November of 2019 when he purchased the property and have known him since. As a neighbor, I find him to be responsible, considerate, and a friendly person. Since his move, I've witnessed him cleaning and demolishing a lot of structures around the house, including a couple of small rooms and a deck on the upper floor and a large room adjacent to the garage on the lower floor. Upon conversing with Mr. Afukala about staking and flagging on his second floor, I came to know he wishes to add a bathroom and a closet on the second floor, rebuild the decks on the second floor, and add exterior stairs leading to the second floor. As a neighbor, I support him in his efforts to bring the property back in compliance and new additions to the property. His house has been in distressed condition for the past decade or so, and I'm glad to learn that it finally will be renovated. I am sure once complete, it will make the neighborhood more desirable and possibly drive the property values up for the neighborhood. As his neighbor, I recommend approval of this project and I wish him success with his endeavors. Regards, Lorraine Cornelius.
Very good. Okay, anything else for public comment, Leslie?
No, sir, that is all I was able to find.
Okay, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the commissioners. Commissioner Dodson?
Yeah, I still would have some interest in going to see exactly how the views will be affected by this. It seems like, from what I've heard, the tree is already blocking the view. So if that is the case, then it's probably a moot point. Apart from that, I see no issues with this proposal.
Very good.
It's like a very sound one.
Thank you. Mr. Evans? Commissioner Evans?
The issue that the chair's raised about the two-car garage is, I think, an excellent issue. I realize he's got a pretty good driveway in front, so it's probably not critical, but if it's something to do with the desire of the city to see two cars, I would prefer to have some understanding of that issue before I give a thumbs up. Beyond that, if I'm reading these plans right, the deck is a lower profile than what was there before. The addition of the bathroom does not change the view from what I can see. Granted, I think a site visit might prove otherwise, but from what I can tell, it won't. So for me, I'm ready to move forward absent not knowing about the garage situation. If that is something that the city does desire, or it is in some sort of procedure or code subject, yeah, I definitely want to know that.
So I'm going to have to ask for a little bit of assistance. I'm totally without both internet on my phone right now and on my computer. So Dana, will you look in 17.34 and see if there's another parking space requirement and share that information when you get to it? Sorry for the interruption and all the issues tonight. And Leslie, I'm trying to share with you the staking and flagging pics photographs. But again, I'm having issues sending that, but it is on the S drive. If we find it's necessary to share those, I can walk you through where to find them. My apologies.
Thank you. Mr. Silva?
So I was just pulling up 17.34 myself just so I could look at it. But with regards to the garage, if a second car garage is triggered with a second floor addition, and that second floor addition was approved in 82 prior to the garage requirement, I don't see how a modification or a slight addition to that second story addition would trigger it. Now, I haven't seen the language, so I'll wait on that. With regards to the addition itself, the demolition of, I know they weren't permitted, but the demolition of the sunroom and the mudroom were far greater in square footage than the addition of 122 square feet for the bedroom or the bathroom and the closet. The bathroom in the closet extends out 8 feet into potential views, but I believe from everything I've seen, it's obscured by the bougainvillea, and it's a very small addition. It's not as high as the other one. We have looked at controversial projects where they're looming down upon a neighbor or something like this. In this instance, the decks, well, the building is 18 feet from a side yard, over 18 feet, and that's somebody's garage, and they have a boat parked there. So there's really no issue with the neighbor on that side. It's 64 feet from the back of the house to the neighbors to the other side, plus there's trees. I'm not seeing any issue there. I feel for the applicant needing to move this project forward, and I just, I don't need a site visit. I can read the plans and see the stuff, so that's not important to me. Obviously, I'm going to defer to my fellow commissioners, but I am personally prepared to make a motion to act on all of the items positively today, because I think it's important to allow the person to move on. And while I respect the concerns about access to the deck, I don't think it's, in this instance, when we have a staircase that complies with the requirements of the use permit, I don't see that it's our place to tell them whether they should or shouldn't have an emergency exit staircase. So I'm fully in support and ready to move forward, but obviously defer to my fellow commissioners on whether they want to have a site visit or they have some other objection.
Very good. Mr. Spalletta.
Yeah, I wouldn't be adverse to a site visit myself, since it was brought up. And I also agree that I'd like to hear the wording specifically on the 2-car garage requirement, like Commissioner Silva said, to hear it specifically to see if it actually even applies. So let's see.
Thank you. Okay, like I said before, I'm not against this. I am so for, this is 1 block down from me. I'm so for making the place beautiful, but in the same respect, all the decking that was up there was illegal. And there's a reason that we don't do decking over. This is why I want a site visit too, is for you to see down below. You think it's so far back, but when you go down to Highland Street and you look up, this thing is massive. And when you add the front deck, that 9 feet more, bringing it out closer to the backyards of those people right there. I don't know about you guys, but I live on a hillside and I'm the downhill guy. And if a guy did that deck above me, it would break my heart and probably kill me, because my backyard is my sanctuary. And when you end up with people above you looking down on you, there's no way that you can make yourself private in your backyard unless you build a roof. So that's why I want a site visit. I want us to see the staircase. I want to see from the neighbor's house what this is going to affect. There's a hell of a difference between a bush and a building. A building is there forever. The bush can be chopped down if you can get if you get along with your neighbor to do something like that. It seems like the old owner that was there, from what I saw, I've been here since 1982, I think it is. And that house has always been a mess. You know, it just didn't look like it fit in, but I have no problem with this. I just want us to look at it to make sure, because once we build these things, it's permanent, right? And there's nothing wrong with this, especially when BAR falls on next week. I don't know whether Leslie could set it up that quick or not, but I just think a site visit would show all that. And it would also show the residents of Seaside that we hear them when they're in on these meetings, and we take the time to look at what they're saying. That's just my side. You know, I'm just 1 of 5. So that's my thought. No.
Chair, can I just add one perspective to what you just said? I just pulled up Google Maps on 1949 Highland, and there's a whole row of cypresses between the two. So I don't know about looking down. We'd want to check that. Yeah,
it's actually off. If you're looking at the ocean, it would be to the right. If you're looking up at the house, it's obviously, if you're looking up at the house, it's to the right. But if we have a site visit, I think we'll all get a gist of what it is. Because like I said, we shouldn't even be looking at these decks, the decks as existing, because they were illegal. So they were never part of the planning commission when they gave them the right to build the second story to start with. I just want to make sure that everything is going to be nice for all neighbors in that area. Like I said, we're on a terrace here. And the only way we get our privacy is by having 12, 13 foot trees and stuff in our yard. But anyways, that's just my thought. Like I said, that's my personal opinion. Beth, did you find anything on that?
I asked Dana for help, so I'll let her chime in if she's found the section.
Yes, so basically in the code, oh, sorry, I lost my spot. Give me 1 second. So expansion of structure, change in use. When a structure is enlarged or when a change in its use requires more off-street parking than the previous use, additional parking spaces shall be provided in compliance with this chapter. So the existing floor square footage of the house is just a little over 2,000 square feet. It only had 1 parking spot previously, so it is non-conforming, but they're continuing that non-conformity. They haven't triggered needing an additional covered space because it was already existing as only having 1 covered parking space. And they
Thank you.
were effectively adding a couple hundred square feet.
Right.
Thanks, Dana.
Very good. Okay, well, we need to make a motion here then. Do we want a site visit?
I would like to make a motion to do a site visit before we vote on the.
Do I have a second? Mike, you need to unmute yourself. Give a thumbs up if you're seconding it.
I'll go ahead and second that.
All in favor?
If
Aye.
I may interject real quick, can
Hold
we,
on. You can't do that we're right in the middle of a vote, Beth.
right, but we might want to consider making part of the motion, continuing the meeting to a specific date, which might allow us to do it, quote unquote, at a special meeting and not waiting until the 4th Wednesday of the next month.
I agree with that.
I'd be happy to amend my motion, and I understand that the owner would like to move forward on this as soon as possible if we do approve it. So I would make the motion that the site visit and that we then meet to vote on the 2 proposals no later than 2 weeks from today.
Okay, let's hold on 1 second for the thing because I see our city attorney's putting up her 2 fingers there.
Sorry about that, Chair. When you call for the vote, it does have to be a roll call vote under the Zoom meeting protocol. So just wanted to remind you guys about the protocol, that it's a roll call vote for the voting.
Oh, so it has to be independent person?
It does.
Okay.
And
Let's go ahead and make the motion first, though. Finish the motion, because since now that Mr. Dodson has changed it, Mr. Spalletta should second the change.
I second the change, the revised motion.
Very good. Staff, can we get roll call on this?
Yes. Commissioner Silva,
No.
Commissioner Evans,
No.
Commissioner Dodson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Spalletta,
Yes.
Chair Owens.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
I do have a question for the chair. I see Commissioner Wynn, I think, is down in a box.
Oh, Commissioner Wynn has joined us. Commissioner Wynn, would you like to vote on this item?
This name's popped up twice now.
I was listening to the commissioners. I was here at 7:10 and listening to all this, and just thinking about as a homeowner how the applicant feels. He's putting a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of time and energy, and his he's following the ordinance. So the zoning, the ordinance, everything's fine. And I feel like, this is just a roadblock that, it's pretty frustrating for him. And I understand the neighbors' concern, but, it's just, our city needs to find a way to understand that we need to beautify our city. If an applicant put money, effort, improvements, and he's following the zoning and everything, and I believe 100% I'm supporting this project. That's all I have to say.
Just for the record, Mr. Nguyen, on the motion, are you saying you are approving the motion to make a site visit and continue it, or are you saying you don't?
I don't need a site visit. I'm approving. I'm following Commissioner Silva.
Okay, so motion is 3-3, and so the motion actually would fail.
Does it fail or is it a stalemate?
It's a fail.
It's a thing.
Okay. So commissioners, we need a motion.
Given there's no site visit, otherwise I am happy to move forward with this. I would make a motion. Are we going to consider the staircase first or the BAR resolution?
Right now, we're on the BAR. We're on the materials and the dwelling.
Okay.
Isn't that correct, Beth?
I'm not sure what your initial motion was meant to apply to. It seemed like it was pausing consideration of both applications. So let's clarify that in our next motion. Naming the application numbers, please.
Right. So, Mr.
Chair.
Chair, City Attorney here, just you could consider the motion together to move it forward and just reference the BAR application number and the use permit application number. Unless you wish to take it separately, you may consider both together in one motion.
Very good.
Okay. Well, then I make a motion to approve use permit 20-06 and BAR, and I don't have the number in front of me.
20-03.
BAR resolution 20-03.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have to
Opposed?
do a roll call?
We got
Roll call.
I'll
I think
vote.
it's
Oh, roll call vote. My bad.
Commissioner Silva,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Dodson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nguyen,
Aye.
Vice Chair Spalletta,
Aye.
Chair Owens.
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1.
Very good.
Wait,
5-1.
that's right. We're all here. We're all here now.
You are all okay. 1, 2, 3. I'm counting the boxes. Okay.
Farley's not here.
Arlene's not there.
Oh,
So
that's right.
5-1.
No, sorry.
Farley were here. This was all gone differently.
That was 5-1 though.
I don't.
Okay, next we are going to look at, one second here.
Hold it.
The wireless.
Can we read the appeal statement before we continue on to the next item, please?
I would if I had, I will, I don't. An appeal be submitted in writing within 7 calendar days of this meeting. It shall state the pertinent facts and have the required filing fees. I believe that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move to ordinance of City of Seaside, adding chapter 17.55 of the Seaside Municipal Code, establishing regulations for small wireless facilities pursuant to applicable federal laws. Go ahead, staff.
Good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So tonight I am presenting to you item 7D. We'll be discussing a new ordinance proposed for review and then hopefully recommendation of approval to the City Council. regarding regulations pertaining to small cell wireless facilities in the public right-of-way. This will be known as Chapter 17.55. So what is exactly a small cell wireless facility? The photo on the right shows something that is not a small cell wireless facility. This is something we typically call a telecommunications tower. They're very large, they're very unsightly. On the left,
We lost you.
we have an example of a small cell structure up to 3 cubic feet of area for the antenna and up to 28 cubic feet for any associated. Sorry?
Dana, you cut out for a second. Are you still there?
Yes, I am still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. So briefly, the photo on the right is a traditional telecom tower, very large, very unsightly. The left shows an example, one of many, of a small cell wireless facility. These are facilities which have an antenna that is up to 3 cubic feet in size, and then have any associated equipment of 28 cubic feet. We have a ground floor cabinet shown down here below. And then these will be located on 50-foot tall structures or on structures less than 10% taller than any
You broke up.
structure or nearby structure. So these are meant to be existing buildings.
We lost you for quite a bit there.
Apparently we're having issues with connection. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm going to speak slowly so that you can jump in and let me know if I cut out.
Very good.
So these small cell cabinets are intended for placement on telephone poles, buildings, light poles, existing public utilities within the public right of way. So we do have an existing telecommunications ordinance, Chapter 17.54. However, there are new FCC rules regarding small cell wireless facilities. So per the FCC's adopted guidelines, which came out in 2018, the city needs to review small cell applications faster than usual and have more limited criteria on what they can actually review. So the new shot clock requires that any small cell wireless facility that's a co-location, so on something that already exists, to be completed within 60 days. For any small wireless facility on a new structure or replacement structures have to be reviewed within 90 days. And then anything that's not a small cell wireless is the traditional 150 days. So this is not traditional. Usually the way applications work, when an application is submitted, city staff has 30 days to review for completeness. In the case of wireless facilities, upon the submittal of the application, that is when the shot clock starts counting. As such, we have.
I'm sorry, you cut out again.
Actually will require this shot clock.
Did you hear me?
Greatly reduces the amount of time we have. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out for a bit.
Apologies. Okay. So basically, these new FCC regulations require us to review applications much faster than usual. Normally, when an application is submitted, staff has 30 days to review for completeness. Under these new rules with the shot clock, that clock starts counting at the time of submittal, not after we have completed a 30-day review. As such, it increases how fast we need to turn around these applications. So the city has already adopted some ordinances in regards to small cell. These were
We lost you.
Urgency ordinances, however, so they didn't go through. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, it tends to go in and out, and I'm just letting you know when we can't hear what you're saying.
That's okay. Please continue to do so. So the city has adopted some regulations regarding small cell wireless facilities already. These were urgency ordinances, however, and so they didn't come to the Planning Commission for review, but they have gone to the City Council. On October 17th, 2019, the City Council approved Urgency Ordinance 1066. This was regulations for small cell wireless facilities. It passed at a vote of four yeses and one member was absent.
We lost you again.
This urgency ordinance modified the requirement to extend the amended version of
Yeah, we're losing you in and out every other sentence.
that ordinance was brought back to the City Council on
Can you
December
hear me?
5th. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you keep.
Yes, I can.
We keep losing every other sentence with you. And I guess when we can't hear you, you can't hear us either.
No, I cannot.
So where you were at when you lost us was the council approved and had something in place, and basically November 31st it expires.
Correct. So we need to have a new permanent ordinance in effect by the end of November. That's the summary. So our next step is just creating a permanent chapter. What we have proposed is substantially similar to regulations and procedures set forth in the City Council small cell policy. So this was an entire policy which was written up and adopted at the December 5th, 2019 meeting. It is substantially similar. If you look at the actual copy, the only added language is what has been added in bolded and underlined. So it's some formatting changes, changing it to an actual chapter reading as opposed to a policy reading. And then we added language detailing application fees regarding costs for recouping outside consultants and city attorney fees. And then we've also added language for backup power due to recent
Lost you.
Public Utilities Commission orders, which requires backup power. And can you hear me now?
Now I can.
Okay. So very few changes were made between the proposed chapter and this already adopted city small cell policy. Those changes detailed below are what have been made. I'm going to go further into it as we go on. So I'm just going to give you a basic been reviewed by City Council and is substantially similar to what has already been approved. But if you do have more questions once I get to the end, I'm happy to answer. So these are some key provisions. We have application requirements. They're listed there. Photo simulations, RF frequency reports that are compliant with federal standards, acoustic analysis, and then review and permitting fees. Language that we have added is regarding fees and deposits. Applicants' fees shall be required to be submitted with any application. No application fees shall be refundable unless paid as a refundable deposit. Costs. Language was added to recoup any money used for consultants and independent experts, as well as attorney time, including the city attorney.
We lost you, Dana.
We've also added specific language regarding how we may use said. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, good deal.
Luckily, most of what I'm saying is written out. So this is new language to help recoup costs for consultants and independent experts, and then specific language on how we can utilize independent experts for review in regards to these small cell facilities. These are other key provisions. These are the same as what was previously existing, no new additions. The Community Development Director reviews all applications. There will be a public hearing or deny the small cell application. We have required noticing requirements. Provisions regarding decisions and appeals. The biggest one, location preference and design standards. So basically, to summarize, the city has said, we do not want you to put small cell facilities in residential areas or create new poles or similar structures. But if not possible, the applicant can demonstrate why one of the more preferred locations isn't feasible and why it needs to be in one of these less preferred zones. We have specific design criteria for small cell facilities within the public right-of-way, outside of the public right-of-way, and then small cell facilities mounted onto buildings specifically. This is all detailed in the actual chapter itself. We have automatic conditions of approval, so standards, and then and then backup power. This is the most recent addition based on a Public Utilities Commission order. Just requires that any new facility that's located in a high threat fire district, tier 1 or tier 3, needs to have a backup generator in case of disasters or outages. So this doesn't apply to most of the city. Per the map below, this line here is General Jim Moore Boulevard. As you can see, everything east of it is in that tier 2 fire district, but everything west is not. So any new facilities up in that kind of Fort Ord past area is going to require this generator. In addition to the chapter, we're proposing to amend the planning department fees. So we're adding a small cell permit application fee is going to be assessed as a minor use permit, attorney fees, and consultant fees as well. So essentially, the city is seeking to review and adopt a permanent small cell ordinance in order to comply with the federal communications regulations. We have worked with outside counsel to develop a flexible approach. Staff recommends the Planning Commission review and recommend approval of the proposed ordinance and fee schedule changes to the City Council by approval of the associated resolution, which is attachment 1. I'm happy to go into further details if you have questions. Please feel free to look at these delightful. As you do.
Dana, we seem to have lost you completely. Right after you put up the all the cell towers, we lost you. Was there anything else you were saying?
No, that is it. Please let me know if you have any other questions or want further details on the specifics of the ordinance or design criteria. I'm happy to address any questions you might have if you can hear me.
Very good. Okay, staff, any questions for, commissioners, any questions for staff?
This is actually somewhat unrelated, but I am curious. We had, not too long ago, we had a measure come up for one of the companies wanted to put in about 10 small wireless facilities and various telephone poles, mostly telephone poles in the southeast part of the city. Was this urgency measure in effect then when we were considering that?
I'll let someone else speak to that. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
It
Mr.
was?
Chair, it was not. That was an appeal of an application I believe you're referring to by Verizon Wireless, and they had come up with some large cells, and then they came back with a second application on small cells. There was an appeal process and a tolling agreement, and ultimately the city council reconsidered those, and they dismissed their small cell application, and the large cells were approved. And this urgency ordinance was adopted shortly after the consideration of that particular appeal process, to put in place some emergency regulations to address the new FCC rulings that came out a little bit earlier in the year. So it creates a better priority and better ability of the city to regulate where we can regulate the small cells.
So was that the cells that we gave the approval on the, I guess it was 3 places for the small ones? They didn't do that and ended up with the big one at the church?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that it looks like there were the 4 locations were on Buena Street, San Lucas, Waring, and Yosemite were the smaller cell applications. And I can tell you, because I was there, the public hearings were quite lengthy on those hearings. And I imagine that you also had a quite a lengthy hearing as well.
Very much so.
Question for city attorney. Since essentially we're just adding some verbiage, some procedure here to the emergency order that the council passed, is it strictly a procedural issue that we're doing this first so that then we hand it off? Because this still requires city council approval, correct?
It does. And one of the reasons that the Planning Commission is considering this is because it's a land use regulation. It will be incorporated into our code system as a formal adoption. And the Planning Commission is required to review those consistently with all the other planning ordinances that are out there and make an appropriate recommendation to the city council.
Thank you.
Anything else for staff from commissioners?
I do have a question for Beth, in case she knows. We also approved a faux pine tower for Verizon, I'm guessing year and a half ago. Is that on hold because they want to now go to small cell towers, or is that still a project they're going to follow through on?
I don't have a memory of that going back a year and a half. So I can follow up with you on that later.
Thank you.
Was that the
Sure.
one at the baseball field, Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans, I think I don't know if they've actually constructed that, but I can tell you that the lease area was approved by the city council not that long ago.
Yes, it is. It has not been built. There's nothing there.
Right.
Okay, well, since this is just we don't have to open up for public comment, or is there anybody for public comment, Leslie?
There's no members of the public on the call, and I received no written communications for this item.
Very good. So back to commissioners then. Commissioners, anybody want to make a motion to push this forward to city council? It would be code amendment SMA 20-06.
I'm happy to move that we approve code amendment. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
SMA 20-06.
That.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, do we need to, Sherry, do we?
Roll call vote. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Commissioner Wynn,
Aye.
Commissioner Silva,
Aye.
Commissioner Dodson,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Vice Chair Spalletta,
Aye.
Chair Owens.
aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Still the same.
Chair, while you're looking, I know we were going to come back to the minutes, but Leslie, when I pulled down the packet just a few minutes ago, there were no minutes there. So I'm not sure where the revised packet was or what you sent out that has the minutes on it.
Right, I didn't want to amend the packet because it would change the draft, but they're all listed on the HTML version. But that's okay, we can continue them into another meeting. If
Sorry, I did
that's
not
easier.
pull
So
it
our
down
city
correctly.
council exclusively looks at them through the HTML. You guys apparently exclusively look at it through the PDF, so I apologize for that.
My bad. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's okay. There's just so many meetings lately. It's been hard to keep up with the minutes.
And Leslie, really quick,
Yes, sir.
my packet ends on 76, which is the cell tower packet. So there's nothing that, so we'll just continue on. Anything for commissioners? Anything commissioners wish to speak on? I see a bunch of shaking heads, including mine, so,
I
okay.
have a question. I have one, Commissioner.
Okay, go
Chair
ahead,
Owens.
Han.
On Broadway, I'm very supportive of businesses, but you know, the other Brothers Brewery, they have that patio there. Who approves that, or who, you see that on Broadway? The wooden
Yeah, I believe it comes down to, they have to have a wall, some kind of a wall so that they can serve their alcohol outside.
Okay, all right, I understand. I didn't know about that.
Well, so through the chair, and Sherry might want to chime in on this, and so will Beth. The city manager is allowing businesses to submit outdoor dining applications, and there's very small requirements for those, and they're being approved administratively. That was part of, I think, the 4th or the 5th emergency proclamation. Right on our homepage of our website, there's an application for that. It goes through our risk manager, through our engineering department, and then through the planning department for approval. So it's all administrative. I can send you guys a copy of the application if you're interested in looking at it, but they are supposed to be, I don't know if they're, what the permit timeline is for them. You'll see them popping up through a lot of other cities, but they are administrative in approval at this point.
So while we're speaking on that, Leslie, since we're part of BAR now, and can't we get something a little nicer than a plywood box that they're building in? Downtown Monterey has these nice light black, and I believe they're a plastic or a super hard plastic little fence type thing that secures to the sidewalk. But they look so much nicer than when you go down through there. That actually looks like kind of like, I'm not sure what.
I can't disagree with you. One of the elements of, and I've gone through several cities recently when I was taking my son to college, and there were so many different examples of options for outdoor dining. Some cities are regulating it heavily. I mean, just locally, Carmel's regulations on their outdoor dining, and they have people who go and tour almost every single day, and they say, hey, I don't like this color, I don't like this plant, or your plants look a little too dead. To ours, where we chose to try to make it just as seamless, efficient.
Well, yeah, they're going through a hard time.
As
I
possible.
mean,
So if you'd like, we can put a recommendation into the city manager for some more design review requirements.
yeah, some kind of
They don't
picket.
need to be, they don't need to be fences, because I've seen some of the restaurants just have a cordon off area. Like the German restaurant. I'm sure being a German restaurant, they're serving beer out there, but it's not a fence.
Correct. We can just, they could even just be basic requirements. They can't be orange K-rail, as an example.
Thank you.
So we'll make that recommendation to him.
Very good. I see you and Sherry are both in the San Francisco area tonight. You're killing our views, I got a Niner thing up on top though, the stadium, so. Very good. So is that all from staff? Or anything else from staff? Oh, that was Danny, I'm sorry. Anything else, commissioners? And staff, any reports from staff?
None.
I would
Okay,
like to just make one comment, if that's okay. So in the event, so Zoom was having some challenges last week and this week, specifically with all the kids going back to school. So in the event, because it sends your invitation automatically through the system, it obviously didn't send it out like it was supposed to. It was incredibly delayed. In the event that you don't receive your link, just use the link, or just use the information that's on the top of the agenda as an attendee, and we can pass you right over into the panelists, just for future reference if that happens again. So I'm so sorry about that delay and for any confusion. Please accept our apology, but that's a workaround we can use
Okay.
for.
No worries. That's electronics for you. Okay, so do I have a motion to dismiss?
So moved.
We got a first. Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Do we have
No
to roll call
opposed?
that one too?
Yeah, have we been doing these wrong then?
Yeah, we should be doing roll call votes for the rest of it, but on this one, I think we're gonna accept that. Sorry,
I
Sherry.
think it'll be probably okay.
Okay, good enough. You guys have a good night. Talk to you later.
Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
Thanks.